And I'm going to send you the recording in a timely manner this time. I don't know what happened last time. Sorry about that. I know Christy was waiting on me. But wanted to go ahead and invite people to put introductions into the chat box today. If you can give us your name and what hub you're from and positioner, that would be really helpful. I have quite a lot of visitors today, so that'll be helpful for them. And we'll also introduce guests as we go along through our presentation. First introduction I wanted to do is we have a long-awaited person with us today. I want to introduce you all to Michelle Lewis-Barnes, who's one of our new Early Learning Hub coordinators. Michelle just started yesterday, and I know you're all going to be really excited to meet her and work with her. We are thrilled to have her. Michelle is coming over from the Office of Childcare, where she was a licensing specialist, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. As Carmen said, I came from a licensing position over the last 3 years. And prior to that, I owned and operated my own certified family programs in Portland, Oregon. So those are my professional experiences in the field. So I'm excited to put faces to names.
Michelle has been studying up today on your hubs and sector plan updates. So it's all going to start clicking together here. Well, welcome again, Michelle. We're really excited to have you. Great. Let me put our agenda up today so you can all see that. Oops, sorry, hold on 1 second. Great. So are you all seeing this presentation, the good news slide? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Like the people that I can see are Michelle or Kelly and Beth right now. So let me go backward a little bit. So here's our agenda today. Greetings and chat box introductions. I want to do appreciations and get some good news from out around Oregon. And then Cass is gonna give us an update on government affairs. Beth and Laura are here to give us an update on family leadership work group work that's going on. Shawna Tomine is here to talk more about parent leadership project update. And then Dylan and I are going to do an update on data and data sharing out with you and TA around data. I'm going to get some input from you about what you want to know in terms of the childcare supply in your regions. So that said, let's move on to good news. Who has something that they would like to share, a success that's going on, or appreciation for staff or community? Renee.
Hey there, good afternoon. I think I shared maybe at the last meeting or maybe it was at the director's meeting that I thought I was going to be fully staffed soon, and I officially am, and I am so excited. So in the last week we onboarded the second person that we've brought on board in the last few months, so that's super exciting. And then the next piece of news is that through collaboration with some other local partners and through some grant writing, we have secured the lease on a space that will be a community center, so that our play and learn groups, different variety of support groups will kind of be like one-stop shop. Our community partners at no charge to them will be able to access the building for child and family related services, hopefully by September. So we're super excited about that. So that's my good news.
That is a lot of good news. That's awesome, Renee. I'm glad you're staffed up. We all know how good that feels for our work. And also, what an amazing resource to be able to offer to the community to have that space. That's great. Dorothy.
Hi, everybody. So a couple of things of cool stuff going on in our region. So in Clatsup County, they have just recently released the Clatsup County Child Care Retention Expansion Grant Program, which is being mostly funded out of county ARPA dollars, but we also have several hospitals who are committing hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next few years to continue this grant work to both retain childcare providers, but also look towards expansion. And that community has just really done a lot of work to understand the complexities of childcare and to try to really toe the line between that retention side as well as expansion. And I have to just, our CCR&R director and one of our local leaders there, Dan Gaffney, has really helped to catalyze that community and make sure they understand it's not just you can't open a new center and expect the problem to be solved. It's really complex and takes multiple facets to solve it. So that's super cool to see happening and to be able to support. And then kind of on a smaller scale, but I think is very exciting, is our hub just contracted with United Way of Columbia County, who's going to be working with some parents and community to support outreach and recruitment for coordinated enrollment. So we're having our first training of our parent navigators, is what we're calling them, in August, and we're partnering with Head Start to provide that. And it's just really fun. They're really connected in the community. The United Way is a really small one. It's like the smallest United Way ever, probably, but good partners. So I'm really excited to see that that grow and see the fruit of that.
Those are both great. Thanks so much, Dorothy, for sharing that. I told several people here at the ELD about the work that you're doing with the United Way and having the family recruiters and doing outreach through them. And there have been many requests to be able to follow the journey and the story of how that project goes, and to be able to hear how it progresses and learn from that. So I hope you'll keep us all updated. Anyone else want to share anything today?
This is Sue Miller, not a hub director, but I'd love to share some good news from the Early Learning Council. I think you all know that back in February, we decided that we were going to form a home visiting system committee of the council. It's really the first one that this council, as it's now constituted, has started. And I'm excited to say that we are launching in about 2.5 weeks. And I want to really thank two hub directors for their support of this effort. Brenda Comini from Central Oregon is going to be serving on the committee. And also Sarah Stevens from the South Coast is going to be on the working team, which will be providing a lot of support to the committee and the council. So thank you, Brenda and Sarah. And we really look forward to working with all of you, because we'll be, I'm sure, gathering input from all of the hubs. So thank you.
That's great news. So thanks so much for sharing. Thanks for being here too. All right. Well, with that, thanks for sharing, everyone. I'm going to pass it off to Cass. Cass, you want to tell us about where we are with government affairs?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Cassandra. I'm with the community systems team for all those that might be new on here. I am the parent education, parent leadership coordinator, and have been helping Carmen while we are down now only one hub manager, not two, which is great. Hi, Michelle. Woohoo. Anyway, and with recruiting and moving and shaking, our government affairs manager, Troy, who you've all met before, who was providing legislative updates, decided to move on. And so in the meantime, while we are in the recruiting process, David Mandel will be coming on when he has updates for us. And so he won't be at this meeting today because he's out of the office. So there won't be a legislative update, but next month we will try to have him come on. And that's about it. And we'll also keep you updated on the government affairs manager position recruitment process. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we can get them answered for you. Thank you. And I think that leads us to the next thing, which is Beth and Laura from PSU. There's been a lot of anticipation around parent leadership work. And so first of all, a lot of just happy moment that we're at this stage now. And I thought that it would be a really great time for the family leadership work group that Beth and her team, Laura, and others have been working on, and working with some of the hub's parent councils and some of the people that work with those councils. So Beth and Laura, are you on? I saw Beth. I haven't seen Laura though.
Laura's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there's just a lot of names on the screen today. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pass it to Laura. I'm Beth Green, and as Cass was saying, we've been working to actually with a group of hub staff and parents to put together some approaches to data collection to learn what's happening with hubs that have on current parent councils, to get a sort of a baseline snapshot and some things that are working, challenges that they've experienced, with the goal of using that information and sharing that with Shawna and her team at OSU, who's also here today. And so we're very excited to be able to have this opportunity to learn more about what's happening with including families in leadership and decision making with the hubs. And so are getting started with data collection. And I will turn it over to Laura, because she's really been heading up the work and can update you all as to where we are and what our timeline is for this first sort of snapshot of looking at current family parent councils and what's been working at the local hub level.
Hi, everybody. I had 2 slides and I wasn't sure if, do I have access to share?
Let me make you a co-host real quick.
Okay. I think it's easier to just have a visual of just our timeline and where we're at. But I have been working with Alexis, and he's on here too. So I just want to give him a shout out. He and I have been co-facilitating the advisory group meetings. So let's see. Pulling up the slides.
Got it.
So the first, so we initially sent out an email to the hubs that currently have some type of family leadership activity happening at their hub, to recruit hub staff members that work directly with the parent councils, and then also recruit parents, a few parents from each of those hubs to sit on an advisory work group that we wanted to form to kind of inform this work, as Beth said. So we did that back before April, and in April we had our first meeting, and there's about 12 members on the advisory group, and there's a little bit more parents than hub staff, so I like that that ratio. It's I think we're looking for parent input, so we wanted to make sure we had enough parents on the advisory group that so the group felt comfortable providing feedback on different areas that we're looking at. So in April, we had our first meeting. We started to look at some proposed interview questions that we wanted to use to inform the data collection around how parents were recruited to their advisory group, or I think they're called the parent advisory councils. And again, the barriers and challenges that they had, but also things that helped to support them attend those PACs or parent councils. And then from that meeting, we had a follow-up meeting in May to really solidify the questions based on the feedback from that first meeting. And we ended up having about 10 interview questions for our one-on-one interviews with parents. And in that May meeting, we solidified those questions and then also asked for feedback around, what's the best way to reach out to these parents to have them participate in a one-on-one interview. Once the May meeting was over, we submitted our project to the IRB. And then last month, we started our recruitment of parents and also Hub staff members for one-on-one interviews. And then currently in August, this month, we are in the process of scheduling and interviewing parents and Hub staff members. So looking beyond August, for the next 2 meetings, advisory group meetings, in September and October, we are having Shawna and her team from OPEC come and have some facilitated discussions with the parent advisory group around what would be helpful for their development of their TA resources. And during those months, we're hoping the PSU team is hoping to be coding and analyzing those interviews in order to have some initial drafts in November to come back to that group and say, hey, these are some of our initial findings, and get some feedback from those findings. And then in December, we're hoping to have pretty finalized draft and talk to the group about some type of dissemination plan. What's the best way to get this information out to your Hub staff, to parents, and what else would be helpful in that area. So that is our current plan and kind of scope of work. And I'm not sure if anything else I need to add, Alexis or Beth, or I could take questions if people had questions. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thanks, Laura. That was great. Any questions or anything for Laura or for Alexis while we're here?
Molly has a question.
Oh, Molly.
And it says, is this to help us set up local PACs, or are we thinking about a PAC for the ELC DELC 2? This work right now is primarily to focus on helping all 16 hubs have their parent advisory councils set up by next year. And so we're focusing on that first. There hasn't, we're still in discussions on the agency side of what that other piece might look like.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, our thinking was in terms of like providing some information to Shawna and her team as they're thinking about technical assistance to setting up and supporting those PACs. Like, let's learn from the folks who are doing it now, and especially let's lead with hearing from parents about
Oh no, Beth, you froze.
from the ones who've been working in that area to inform the work that's moving forward.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to introduce you to Shawna Tomine. Many of you know her, maybe some of you, it'll be a nice introduction. And Shawna has new members of her team to introduce today, which I'm super excited about as well. So Shawna, would you like to introduce yourself as well as your team members?
Sure. Thank you, Cass. And thank you everyone for inviting us into the space. I'm Shawna Tomine. I am logging in today from Oregon State University, which sits on the lands of the Marys River or Mpinafu Band of the Kalapuya, who were forcibly removed from these areas. And just wanted to take a moment to honor the people and places who were here since time immemorial, as well as those who continue to live and be present in the space and continue to share their stories. That's sharing stories and elevating the voices of families, of the people who stood before us in the spaces where we are, in our own families, as well as in our communities, is so critical and foundational to this work. And I'm thrilled to be here as a partner in the space, as a friend, and as an invited guest. As many of you know, I'm part of the team that helps support the Oregon Parenting Education Collaborative, or OPEC. And OPEC was a foundation-led initiative with support from the Oregon Community Foundation, the Ford Family Foundation, Meyer Memorial Trust, and the Collins Foundation to establish and support a statewide system for parenting education and family support. And OPEC has grown over these last few years to support now statewide as well as Siskiyou County, California. And on our team, we help support OPEC hubs, as well as the statewide network of parenting education professionals and others who are serving and supporting children and families across communities with technical assistance, strategic planning support, professional development, evaluation research, and then being a part of these state level partnerships. And we know that many of you have relationships with your OPEC hubs. We know that some of you are your OPEC hubs or wear multiple hats or are one and the same. And we also know there are places where there's a lot of growth to be had still in the OPEC community and in OPEC hubs. And we hope that in partnering in this and other meaningful work, we'll be able to help strengthen both the hubs that we're supporting on the OPEC side, as well as their relationships with you. So thank you for inviting us into this space. I wanted to say just a little bit about our involvement here and being invited into the space on the side from OPEC when we were first approached. And I was so grateful to have Cass reach out in terms of partnership and ideas and brainstorming early on in this process. And like many of you, we all grapple with the need to ground this work in relationships and taking meaningful time to build those relationships in a way that truly honors and elevates those that we're aiming to serve, as well as the barriers and both the wonderful support and resources that come with state partnership and state funding, and some of the challenges that come with having strict timelines and deliverables and funding, and some of the barriers at the state level that sometimes contribute to when funding arrives versus when we thought it would arrive. And so we thought very carefully about, does our team get involved and support this work? Would we be valuable partners in doing that? Should it be us? Should it be someone else? And if we do this work and engage in this work with you, how can we do it in ways that are most meaningful? Step in as guests in the space to learn from you. And we're very, very grateful to Beth, to Laura, to Alexis and their team for inviting us into the space with them, and to look at building this out as long-term support. So today we're going to talk a little bit, just briefly, about the things that we're thinking about, that we're hoping to learn from you about, to shape our work in meaningful ways. Because we both have, like you, deliverables and timelines related to PDG funds of, okay, here's some extra PDG funds. Let's get some resources going so that we have them to meet these deadlines. And we've looked at building staff into our long-term budgets and blending funding across projects so that we could bring folks on who are dedicated to this work, who believe in this work, who are foundational in being long-term partners in this work. And that you'll see what we're planning is both the short-term burst of resources in any way that we can to support you and the deadlines that you have, while also building in meaningful long-term partnership and support. And I'm so excited today to be able to introduce two of our two new team members, Amanda Kessian and Brenda Yola, who will introduce themselves. You'll see as we go forward in this project too, that right now my voice, I'm taking up more of the space in the OSU side of the presentation. Over time, you'll see their voices taking up more of the space as they come onto our team and get to know you on this work as well. So Amanda, I have your photos to share and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shawna, and thank you all of you. Hello. My name is Amanda Kessian, and I am very excited to join our BEC team as an outreach coordinator. I live in Astoria, Oregon, and I want to thank you, one of you, for the work you do for all the families in your community. I really value and respect your work, your amazing, amazing work, and I want to share you a little bit of me and my history. Here is some pictures that is for my family. I have two girls and my dog Casper. The best part of Casper is when he was a puppy. So he's 6 years old now, but I love that picture. So I want to share with you my family. I was born and raised in Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico, 2 hours away from San Diego, California. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I started working when I was in high school. I went to a private school in high school because my first year in high school was not easy for me. In order to pay for my school, I worked full-time during the day, and I went to school at 9 and so on during my college. I was the first in my family to go to college. So my parents could not support me with the school because they didn't know how. But I had great teachers, wonderful friends who helped me a lot. I graduated with a business degree and with an emphasis in human resources. 6 years after that, I was married with a good job, a wonderful job, but I felt ungrateful. I don't feel, I was not feeling happy. I had very difficult times for me with 3 miscarriages, and my hope of having children was disappearing. And since everything in my life had always been difficult, I thought it was one more barrier to overcome. My husband and I decided to move to Santa Barbara. He got a job. The plan was just for a short period of time, and I can have a choices and do something that I like it. In Santa Barbara, my life was totally different. The culture, the language, the community, I didn't know, I did not identify myself with my paisanos. The people were from my Latino community were just different, and also the opportunities and to learn new things was a new world for me. Looking for something I like, I started helping a family as a babysitter and care for twins. And then another family was added because I feel so much love for the children's, but I didn't feel prepared. Then I start with taking trainings and learning, because I really wanted to prepare myself to better serve those children and their families. And I was happy and grateful for the opportunity that the life gave me to take care of those children and support those parents. And I thought maybe I will never have children, but I can help others. And it was then when my first daughter, Elena, was born. And because of my husband's work, we moved to Oregon 13 years ago. And my second daughter, Dana, born here in Astoria. And it has been wonderful journey raising my daughters full of adventures and learning. And I dedicate myself to being a mom, supporting other parents and schools in my community. When my daughter started elementary school, I started working in a school as a translator and interpreter, as a family liaison, as a family engagement. At first, I wanted to learn about the school system, but I learned that many parents need help, and they need touch my heart. I had the opportunity to support parents from my Latino community, migrants, refugees. I can say that my work in parenting education began and is a consequence of love and gratitude. And it's a really honor to be here today doing this job that I love so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Shawna.
Thank you, Amanda. That was beautiful. Brenda.
Hi everyone, my name is Brenda Yola, and I'm also really excited to be here with you all and collaborate with you all in the future, near future. A little bit about myself and why I'm here, what has brought me here, has really been my education. Education was something that growing up was something really important to my parents, something that they really valued. Both of my parents did not go past 3rd grade. And so when they said education was really important, I didn't really know what that meant. They didn't really know what that meant because they didn't know how to navigate those systems. And it was all just like new to them, and it was new to me. And we had a lot of barriers as a family that we had to overcome in order for my sister and I to obtain our education. And a lot of that fell on me as a child to like really help and support my parents to support me. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for, I'm sorry, I get emotional. I'm grateful for the community that really supported me, to support my parents, to support them, to support me. It was just like a supportive community that really raised me. And because of that, I got into education to support parents, to become that community, to support them and elevate them. And I'm just grateful for education in general. Like the pictures that I have here are of different educational stages in my life. I've had the opportunity to travel around the world and connect with other educators, with parents, and learn about different cultures. And, you know, there's a picture of me graduating with my master's degree in education, like being the first one in my family to achieve something like that. All right. It's just something very emotional. So anywho, I'm gonna stop there before I get more emotional, but I'm just grateful to be here and really excited.
Thank you, Brenda. And thank you, Amanda. Thank you both for sharing your journeys. And as others, I'm sure, feel in the room too, I'm just so excited to learn with both of you. And Brenda, you'll see as we work together more, I'm the first one to start crying at various trainings and very open about that in terms of my own vulnerability and emotions. And just so grateful for you sharing yourself and your family. And you too, Amanda. Thanks for sharing the space with me. To follow suit, I also added a few pictures from my time in various educational capacities. I also added some pictures of actually little me down in the bottom left-hand photo in the pink shirt with the overalls. That was me with my grandma, with my baby sister, my cousins. I when I think about why this work is so meaningful to me. And when I see folks cry on Zoom, I cry on Zoom. And so I may need to pull my tissues and just feeling Brenda's heart in what she was sharing. For me, when this project first came to light as a possibility for us to be involved in, there was a part of me that stepped back and said, okay, we have enough on our plate right now, and we don't need to go in that direction. And I remember having conversations with Cass about, well, if we could bring on a team to help support, so it just wasn't falling on existing team members' shoulders, and really be able to dedicate the support, the time, the staff, the care that we would want to elevate this work in the way that it deserves. I really had to think about my own family experiences and why this is so important to me, and why looking at how we elevate parent and family voice is so critical. In my own family, my parents aren't pictured here, but my dad's from Klamath Falls. He grew up in Oregon. My mom's from Taiwan. She grew up in Taiwan as a war baby, not knowing her father, not having a lot of resources. She tells stories, and I've seen the stone house and the dirt floors where she grew up with 10 cousins on one mattress and one toothbrush. And for her, she had opportunities some years to go to school, but they had to alternate who was able to go to school on account of bus fare. And so growing up, and my mom, in coming to the United States as an adult, she finished her high school degree as an adult at South Eugene High School. She met my dad there. So my mom has her high school degree. My dad has a PhD. And I grew up in this family with very, very different backgrounds, different languages, different experiences, different cultures that came together in beautiful ways, and that came together in ways that really clashed at times too. And I learned different messages from each of my parents. I learned that my mom didn't set foot in my classrooms growing up because she worried she would do something wrong. She didn't want to question teachers. She would teach us, never, you don't even make eye contact. That might be threatening to a teacher. They're the ones who know. They're the experts. You need to listen to them. And you're respectful and you're deferent to your teachers. And my dad would come in completely the opposite and say, you belong in any space where you show up with confidence. You stand up straight and you walk in, and you belong everywhere. And you should question adults, especially your teachers, because they're just people too. So I had these very different messages and very different models. And what I learned growing up, what was reflected back to me in much of the society that I grew up in, was that there was a right way of doing things and there was a wrong way. And that my dad's ways were held up as being right, and that my mom's weren't. And it's taken years of unlearning that to see how valuable my mom's voice has been in my life. And being in academia, I saw a recent study, now I don't remember the number, about how many folks who have a PhD who had a parent with a PhD. I benefit from that statistic. My dad had a PhD from U of O. That's a dark secret on the side of the family, being a Beaver now, but the value that my mom brought of being that person in our community who would go to the grocery store and bring home people from around the world to feed, because she saw herself in them, that we always had a table that was open to the community, that she gathered people, that she fed them, that she stood up for anybody who was seen as different, or who was institutionally marginalized, or who was seen as not fitting the norm or the typical. And in so many ways, in thinking about some of the work that we are doing to dismantle systems of oppression and barriers linked into racism and other forms of oppression, my mom was the model of that. And it took me a long time to see how important that was in my life because of some of those messages. And so I carry, for me in this work, both of the gifts from my parents and the offerings that they've imparted to me in my own life and in what I do. And it's helped me step back and look at, how do we elevate all voices? Because every one of them has value and every one of them has something to teach us. And so together, that's what we're hoping to bring to this work. And we have some, as I mentioned, parallel aspects of this work. One is, okay, there's some money on the table. We want to spend it in your service. We have some funds to spend by December. And We want to develop a long-term set and support in terms of resources and what you need. And we see this work as having multiple arms. One being resources for participating parents and families, supporting meaningful participation in leadership councils or advisory councils, depending on the name you're giving them, to help build their own understanding of local and state level efforts or ways they can be involved, ways they might want to be involved, or that they can show us and teach us to enhance their skill development related to skills that they may already have that aren't being recognized in certain ways, or to enhance those that they are asking to develop or learning to develop from one another or from you or their communities. And then looking at what are the pathways to truly and meaningfully engage family voice, both at the hub level as well as eventually at the ELD and DELC level, in that community decision-making, parent and family-led community projects, or around policies. And we know that part of this work is our own work. As leaders, as colleagues in this field, some of this work is our own to question, how do we really partner with others and bring their voices into a space in a way that is truly meaningful, where we are really honoring them versus tokenizing, versus hearing and putting aside. And so some of that has to come from us internally. So what are the skills that you're looking to grow and develop or enhance? What skills do you already have to share with each other and to bring into the space to develop and continue those meaningful relationships? You're doing it already in so many ways. To engage parents and family voice meaningfully in your work, how are you already doing that? Where do you want that to grow? To strengthen those relationships with families in your communities, to establish and support your parent leadership or parent advisory councils responsively, because this is, again, though there are deadlines in place, this is long-term work. The deadlines help us get things moving, or help when resources have a certain terminal end that we need to be aware of. But it's a long game, it's not a short game. And then cultivating those opportunities and pathways for parent and family leadership, and even positions or support, or elevating them through the system to become leaders in their communities, as well as within the systems themselves, if those are pathways they'd like to take on. We've thought about a range of formats for resources, that they could come in written formats or visual or audio workshops, whether they are virtual or in person or recorded, so that you have them to use with your staff. Thinking about, we know at hubs you have both folks in leadership roles who are sometimes those supporting the parent advisory council. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you have other folks in that place, or it's a co-effort. And so looking at what's needed at different levels. How can we lift some of the capacity burdens that you may carry sometimes by providing resources that help step into those spaces where you already are, whether they're training of trainer workshops, resources, materials, tutorial videos, podcasts, audio, resource lists of other trainings. We're starting to do a deep dive, or we have been a little bit, into what are the resources that are already out there. And what we hear often from folks is, oh, there's this great organization, we took this training from them, everyone will love this, but it's not the end all be all. We'd like it as one in a menu of offerings. So how do we leverage what's already out there? Models like Head Start that are already out there, that have been doing this work a long time in meaningful ways, learn from them, pull the pieces that you'd like to have in your menu as well, while also making this flexible and responsive. And so we know we'll have a chance to continue hearing from you, to continue learning from you. The team at Portland State has graciously invited us in, as Laura mentioned, to the Family Leadership Advisory Group for the next 2 months to come and listen and learn in that space. So we look forward to it. But we'd also love to just get a little bit of a pulse. If you don't mind adding in chat or sharing out verbally, what's one hope you have for your hub's Parent and Family Leadership Council work in the coming year? And if you have a most pressing question or a need for support, given that there are some funds that are time sensitive, we'd love to start hearing about what are those critical upfront needs that we should be prioritizing. And oh, Amanda, my apologies, I don't have your picture on this slide, but we also want to open ourselves up to hearing from you. So we'll be gathering information in lots of different ways. This is one more. You're very welcome to reach out to any and all of us, and we'd love to hear from you and stay connected. I'll go back to this because we really would love to get your, if you don't mind adding some things in the chat for us. Thank you, Jen. Do you know what? I've heard that from another hub now too. So that's good to hear that that is an issue. And I'll say it out loud in case folks are watching the audio later. There was one ask, we are looking for a trainer to come help our PLC prepare to engage with a legislative session. Would love any resources or suggestions. We have that on our list. I'll pause for others or questions for me or other members of our team for Amanda or Brenda.
I'm happy to share verbally if that's okay.
Sure, please.
I think when I think about what I hope for the next year, the word sustainability comes to mind. You know, our hub has been one of those hubs that's really struggled across the 3-county region to create a sustainable, meaningful parent leadership council. And so there's a part of me, and I think I've probably shared this with you before, Shawna, there's a part of me that gets anxious about doing something for the sake of a deliverable, as opposed to creating something that is sustainable and meaningful. And we've been doing a lot of internal planning work and conversations that makes me hopeful for that sustainability. But that's being able to sustain something, not just, I mean, that I don't want to have this up and down kind of thing that we've had in the past with engaging parents and feeling like we've lost capacity. So that's a thing that, you know, goes to the wayside as we're shifting. So that's on my mind.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Dorothy.
I think the thing that we are working here in Marion and Polk is how do we connect our parent leadership group with other parent leadership groups so that we've got that spider web effect. Because you know, we have a dynamite group of 8 to, well, I think we're up to 10 now, actually, now they say that. But, you know, we've got a group who are wonderful and awesome. And there's more parent voices that we want to make sure get included in that. And the approach that we're taking, and it also, for me, it is also some of that sustainability piece that Dorothy was mentioning and how critical that is as well. But helping as a way to bring people together so that we've got that shared common language and we're connected with each other and it becomes a little bit more natural. And so we're embarking on a kind of a 3-prong leadership development track, doing some personal growth and development using some of Brene Brown's workshops, and then also having workshops on how to advocate for your child in school, and then the legislative advocacy, and with the intention that there'll be something there for everybody across our parent advisory groups, but and also how can we help build that capacity for our parent advisory committee and then also for others. So help on how to sustain that, and you know, how do we work that in would be wonderful.
Thanks, Lisa.
There's some response from Michelle and Lane that I can read. One would like recommendations on trainings for our parents or on advocacy work. And 2, ways to build their leadership skills to eventually have them facilitate the meetings themselves.
One thing that has been happening is, as I have been talking to the parent engagement coordinators in the hub, in the communities, if they do let me know about the trainings or the wants that they need, I've been passing them along to Shawna and to Beth so that there's an understanding of what currently might be being asked, so they can add that into the assessment to help build tools for Shawna's team to think about in the future. So if you do think of things outside of this meeting, please continue to share those with me so that I can continue to share them on as well.
Well, thank you so much for having us and inviting us into the space. We are really just honored and grateful to be joining you in this work. And I'm so excited about Amanda and Brenda joining our team and to be able to learn from them and alongside with them, as well as alongside with you. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Shauna and Laura and Alexis and Beth and Brenda and Amanda. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much to all of you for coming and sharing about this work. It's exciting to see it moving forward and really looking forward to continuing the conversation about what you all need as hub leaders and what your parent leaders are looking for and how we can make sure that it is a truly fulfilling experience and relationship for them as well as for you. With that, we're gonna take a quick break. Let's come back at 2:01. We'll give everyone kind of a minute to stretch and grab some water, and then we're gonna shift gears and talk about data. So we'll come back at 2:01. All right. I am going to pass this back off to Dylan, who is gonna talk to us a little bit about data assistance, pertaining particularly to the regional system assessments, but also kind of general. Let's go ahead, Dylan. And do you want me to share your slide right now?
Sure, yeah, go ahead and do that. Thanks.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, I think Carmen wanted me to just check in with everyone about what our plans are for the ELD side of data TA related to the regional systems assessment. So I will be the primary resource. We should have popped up my email on here. I forgot to do that. But basically, we'll plan to have you reach out to me directly if you have a need for data TA related to the regional systems assessment that isn't directly related to data within the ELMO dashboard, which we'll get to in a second. So just some thoughts on the types of things that I would consider data TA are like discussing potential options for data. So we can imagine that there's data sources that are already existing, data sources that you might be interested in creating to address questions related to the RSA. We could talk about, ways to collect data, how to create data collection tools, et cetera, instruments. Thinking about what data ELD has that could address particular aspects of the RSA that you're interested in tackling, or potentially if there are other public data sources out there, at least that I know of or that my colleagues know of, would be happy to help kind of track those down. And then also thinking about methods for pulling together data that you have collected or that you've gotten from ELD into something that's useful for addressing questions related to the RSA. So those are some kind of general examples. It's likely that we wouldn't be able to kind of create brand new data collection tools for individual hubs or kind of conduct any sort of kind of extensive analyses. But I'm always happy to chat about kind of what are best methods for approaching those kinds of tasks and other things related to that. As I mentioned, we have kind of extra support from the PSU ODI research team that will be involved in giving support related to ELMO. So the ELMO dashboard, as you might remember, is kind of a mapping out the early learning map of Oregon. It's mapping out a bunch of different metrics related to the early learning system in Oregon. And the team, the PSU ODI research team, is going to be providing some TA in the form of some webinars and discussions about how to use ELMO most effectively. And so that is the general plan, and we'll have some updates on what that ELMO related TA is going to look like soon. But that is the general plan for what data TA will look like. Are there any questions? I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Don't see anything. So I can move on to just chatting a little bit about what this ELD data pool related to the early childhood service analysis will look like in the fall. If that sounds good, Carmen. I know you also had some FCCO data you're going to chat about. Okay, so for the early childhood service analysis, the EXA, I think is what we're calling it, a couple of pieces of data we're going to pull together in the fall to help support hubs as they're working through that. One is going to be some information, some data on the current year enrollment in different programs, different state-funded programs at the site or grantee level. The idea there being that, and also potentially by different license types, the idea there being that with that information, you should be at the site level and the grantee level, you should be able to break out into different geographies where these publicly funded programs have slots. And that'll help address some of the kind of questions in the EXA at the top of that the document that you'll be working on. There are also some questions in there related to kind of reach, specifically reach regarding priority populations. And so to help with that, we're going to be looking at prior year enrollment data. So for programs, we get information at the end of the year about enrollment in a bunch of different categories. So we can think of like demographic categories like race, ethnicity, as well as a number of other categories that might be relevant for the kind of many different priority populations that hubs have identified. And so for that, we'll be similarly providing at the site or grantee level some information about enrollment numbers, kind of counts within each of those different groups across programs. So that's what that second data pool will look like. We are planning to provide that information as early as we possibly can, which will be in October most likely. Because of the way data come into ELD and are cleaned, we will likely have most data by then. There is the possibility that if we are getting data late or data is missing for other reasons, we may have to provide a supplement in November. So we're actively planning to provide as much as we have available in October and then supplement in November if necessary. Hopefully that won't be necessary, but we're anticipating just based on past years that sometimes things come in later than expected. So that's what my plan is. We're really hoping it'll be helpful, and then I'll be available at that time too to kind of help digest some of that information and work with you to think through how to best use those data. So that's what that'll look like. And then Carmen, if you want to chat about the FCCO component, that would be great.
Thanks, Dylan. Does anyone? I see a question. Lisa asks, how will this information be delivered? Sorry. I'm just trying to not have a smart aleck response. I was thinking of like bringing it in like a folder with like a bottle of wine to each person. It'll be delivered. We'll send it either, yeah, I think we'll probably send it in just like a PDF file or a spreadsheet file to you via email or share a doc or something that's too big. Did you have a wish behind that, Lisa, in that question, or just curious?
More curiosity. Sorry, my system is really unstable today, so
No worries.
apologies for not having my camera on. Yeah, I was just sort of thinking, like, how malleable will it be? Will it be in Excel? Will it be a still file? Will it be, just, I think it is helpful when we can see at a glance what the information is, but then also be able to draw some comparisons and move things around. So
yeah, we want you to be able to play with
example.
it and like move it around and have it be malleable. So I think I just said PDF, and really the word I was looking for was a spreadsheet. Sorry.
Yeah, I see a couple of people in the chat also saying that, yeah, something like an Excel spreadsheet, something where you can kind of manipulate the data is going to be really important. So I think that's the plan.
Okay, so the data that Dylan was just talking about, that he's working also with our program administration team on, that is really specific to the publicly funded programs. So that's preschool promise, baby promise, relief nursery, OPK slots. And then we also have this other giant set of data that's available to us when we're talking about supply of childcare and what's out on the market and available. That comes from Find Childcare Oregon, which I'm just gonna, in case anyone has forgotten, because of course the names of things change all the time. Find Childcare Oregon, or FCCO, is the state database of childcare preschool. It primarily has licensed care in it or unlicensed like preschool or center care that's regulated. So like school districts that aren't licensed but that have preschool programs, or like a half-day preschool program that serves primarily an education purpose, that would also be in there as well. And that is maintained by your partners at CCR&R primarily. The database is it's maintained overall via a contract from the ELD with Western Oregon University, or TRI is that department. And we're able to get, in the same way that you're able to work with your CCR&R to pull data specific to providers in the area, we're also able to do that on our end versus TRI. So what we want to do is, I'm assuming everyone will want this. If there are people that are like, we already got what we need, that's fine. But what we want to offer to you is for us to work with TRI to pull the data that's needed by you in your regional assessment. So I have a baseline list of types of things that you would be able to know about the providers that are in your area, and would like to take some time to talk with you and brainstorm and make a list of other information that you would want included when you're thinking about your supply. And we're gonna start this conversation now, and I can send you the list that we come up with. And then we would be sending you again in spreadsheet format. So not until, it would probably be October. And so there's plenty of time for you to go back to your offices, back to your community, and say like, hey, this is what's on the list of what we think we're going to ask for. Is there anything else you can think of? And of course, your CCR&Rs have really in-depth understanding of all of the different fields that are in there and all the various checkboxes that can be clicked off under a provider. So they would be great thought partners for you on that as well. I see a question in the chat. For clarification, the FCCO data is now one and the same as our local CCR&R data. Yes. So you'd pull data rather than us requesting it locally. Yeah, exactly, Brenda. We're offering to pull that for you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, let me get over here. And then share screen again.
So Carmen, can I, this is Lisa again, I'm sorry, can
Yeah,
you
no, go
clarify
ahead,
that?
Lisa.
So for the FCCO data, you're wanting us to request that via you all instead of requesting it via our CCR&Rs?
We would like to say we're going to do it for everyone unless you already have it, or you just want to go through your CCR&R and do it. That's something that we can do under our contract with TRI. It'll be the same data.
Okay, so you'll automatically give it to us. We don't have to request it from you.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a really just like baseline example of what a basic spreadsheet of you might receive might look like. So for example, we could give you a type of care, sorry, acronyms. Registered family, so this is in-home licensed childcare, certified family, in-home childcare center, saying that school district, part day. We can break it down by zip code. We can include city, elementary school catchment area is often available. And then I know from conversations with some of you that you definitely want to know how many of the slots that are available in these different kinds of programs are infant toddler slots, how many are preschool, how many are school age. And then of course the language, we say language of instruction because that kind of is a clarification. Like there may be people who speak a different language in the site, like at a childcare center, there might be someone who speaks Arabic, but if they're not actually speaking to children in Arabic, that's different. Hours that they're open can have a big impact in terms of what supply you have and what you need. We're able to pull who has what is considered extended day, so a longer day, and we're also able to pull who does overnight care. So for those who are maybe having conversation with business and industry or hospitals that are staffing overnight, that might be something that you're interested in. And then, of course, the all-important transportation is a button that we can click to report out to you who is able to transport children to and from care. So you can imagine these all being filled in with, okay, we've got, and then you could, of course, do like total, we'll do total slots within and providers within each of these provider types. And then you'll be able to do a breakdown that says, okay, how many of them have transportation? How many infant slots does that mean? So again, I summarized those here. And then I also added current vacancies. Those will be, they're always gonna be a snapshot of like somewhere within the last couple of months, almost always, unless you have providers who are really on it because they are able to do their own updates to their profiles now. So if they're super on it and they're changing it, then that might be, those will be really up to date. Or if your CCRNR just completed updates with them, that'll be on there. Working with the CCR team at ELD to just try to make sure that in this next quarter that we get the like most thorough set of vacancy checks that we can. But that doesn't mean that what you pull will be accurate to a T on that day. So curious to know if there are other items that come to mind that people would want to know about the demographics or services of the providers in their area. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a minute. Yeah, that's great, Molly. Add if they have a current contract with ELD for Baby Promise or Preschool Promise. Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna see if they accept ERDC? Is that gonna be on that list as well? Okay.
Yes, Evan, that can also be on there. And it has a different, I believe that it still differentiates between, it's gonna be weird, but they'll both be on there. And we'll spell out what all of these different fields mean when we give you the data too, but there's a difference between like willing to accept ERDC and like a currently ERDC listed. But yes, that will be on there. ERDC jobs.
I don't know if this is so much for the regional assessment as for some other things we're doing, but if you guys are going to start regularizing these polls and providing this to us on like some kind of a, I don't know, a regularized basis, if we could somehow fold in the pricing study information into this in some way where you could like look at it and get a more, I don't know, without having to look across documents, right? Like get a sense of where these pay bands are based on location or type, like that would be really cool. We've done some stuff with our GIS staff where we've geolocated childcare providers in the county, and like we cross-reference that with the CDC vulnerability index. So if you can provide this data to us on a regular basis, there's some other things that we can do locally just in terms of playing around with it and making other tools and stuff.
Definitely could see the value of that. I've put in sort of like average cost in a given area as one of the things we could try to find. at minimum. Brenda says, our challenging ask was with attributes related to priority populations beyond demographics, and whether the info gathered was self-reported by providers or quantified in another way. Brenda, do you mean the provider or the children served, or both?
Sorry, I apparently have unstable internet right now again. The question was specifically around inclusive care and what that meant.
Yeah.
And again, whether in the old system, we know that providers self-reported and checked boxes, and so trying to really quantify what we have by some standard definition, I think has been our challenge.
Yeah, that's a hard one when it's like whether or not because what was asked was like, do you have experience with, and then sort of like a list of different like types of delays that a child might have, or like special medical needs. And so that was essentially self-reported. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have like extensive training in doing that, offer high quality service to that demographic.
And there's no way to really hone in on current capacity, because they may check that and that may reach its limits at one child. And if that child is being served well, they may not have that same capacity with additional children.
I don't know that this solves the problem, but it's just something I didn't learn about until this year, which is when I think about if we talk about children that are on IFSPs, they are either served they could be in a community setting because they were already served there, and in the course of their childhood, the course of their development, they go through the process and are on IFSP, but they're still served in that program because that's where they were naturally anyway. They're not placed there. There's another option, which is a child gets placed in a setting through an ESD relationship or through preschool promise as well. I know if an ESD places a child on an IFSP in an early childhood program through a contracted slot or however that looks, those programs have to go through an ODE authorization process. I'd be curious how many programs are ODE authorized to be those settings. Again, I don't think that will tell us the full picture, but I didn't even know that was a thing that happened until I learned about it this year, because our ESD is trying to expand the number of contracted slots in our community for children who are on IFSPs to be in more inclusive settings. So just a thought about like a potential other data point to tell us something about settings that are inclusive in the environment or in our regions.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to share a screen so you can see the list that I have right now. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Does anyone have one that they want to add? And I am going to send out this summary to you and ask you to get back to me with anything else you want to add. We can bring this to the CCRNR meeting too in a couple of weeks and check in with them about what they think will be helpful.
Hey, Carmen.
Yeah, go ahead, Renee.
I'm thinking kind of in terms, we've been talking about supply and demand, but I'm also thinking about quality and wondering if there's any data from licensing that could be helpful in terms of providers with founded violations, thinking about like, and then I guess a related data point, spark ratings, to just really get to the quality, because there's capacity and then there's quality. And I think we don't want to focus on one and not both.
Yep, that's a great point. You can definitely do Spark rating. I don't know if you can search by licensing sort of status or violation.
It would be worth finding out because I think that is important. Yeah. Thank you.
I really agree with that. Thank you, Renee, for bringing that up.
I'm gonna add in full year versus part year. Because we hear that some families want part year and we hear that a lot of families need full year. So for some areas, it doesn't matter what you have if it doesn't cover the summer. Okay. Well, that's helpful to get your additions to that. We'll talk it over as a team. I'll bring it to the data team at TRI and see what we can do with the list that we have now. And I'll, in the meeting notes, include the list that we just made together, and you can feel free to talk it over and send back any things that any additions that you have to add to that list. I think that takes us to the end of our meeting. Oh, and I would also, I'm gonna connect up with our CCR&R coordinators and get that list in front of the CCR&R partners too, so we can see with their knowledge of what's even in there, what else should go on that list. Thank you all so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Oh, one more. I heard someone go off mute.
Yeah, Carmen, I'm sorry, this is Lisa again. One sort of meta question that I have is how, and maybe we're going to talk about this next week when we meet about Raise Up Oregon, but would love to see how this work with the regional assessment is lining up with Raise Up Oregon. And so I would just love to dig deeper into that, because I think that's going to shape too, certainly will shape my approach to how I embark on the regional assessment.
For sure. I'll say two things really quickly. Yes, we will talk about that more on the 11th. I believe both David Mandel and Sue Miller, I think Sue said she was going to be there as well as part of that conversation, and then one of our build partners, as well as Remy Watts, and I will be there, and Michelle. And then the other piece of that is it is going to depend somewhat on how your region decides to approach it, because a couple of things. One, that the revision hits on all of the objectives versus just objective 2, and that also the bulk of the engagement that we're hoping will happen via hubs or whoever you contract out to would happen in early 2023. And I don't want to ask you to wait to do your outreach and your engagement with community around objective 2 until we get all the way until 2023, if that's something that you're wanting to dive into now. But I do think that we can get some clarity from the revision team on what it is that they're going to be looking for and how it can tie together, because there certainly should be some overlap there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll make sure I'll chat with David and make sure that there's time on the agenda for us to talk about that on the 11th. All right. Thank you all so much.
Great.
Yeah, no worries. Everyone have an amazing afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.